We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of An Author's Kiss. And this author is also an artist and a musician. I don't have a genre to put all of those under one, so she's under Author's Kiss today because we're going to be talking about her new book. You're right here on the selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and we're talking about Sam Weis. She is an author. She has this wonderful book that is out right now, Abstraction. We're going to be talking about the book. We're going to be talking about her music. We're going to finish off with one of her musical pieces. We're going to be talking about her art. And she crosses the genres. Some people think if you're an artist, you're just an artist. An author, you're just an author. Musician, you're just a musician. She crosses her art all the way across those platforms and just lets it out. She says Abstraction is a new novel and it's quirky, fast-paced story of an artist, villains, and accidental heroes. A famous artist abruptly changes her painting style and finds her art has an eerie impact on people. Wren Willow Hendrix, I'm probably saying that wrong, New York provokes inexplicable personality changes in those who see it. I'm really intrigued to find out all about that and also to understand, her music, which is a guitarist. She's an award-winning songwriter. She grew up in Eastern Illinois and she's studied fine arts at the University of Iowa. And she has toured as a guitarist with 2 rock bands and enjoys a successful solo music career, and also now lives in Iowa, where Abstraction is her first novel. So I love the cross-section of an artist. Wonderful. Welcome to the show, my dear.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
And, again, as I said, it's people get kind of locked in that you're one thing or the other, and they don't realize artist is somebody that sees things from a different eye. And that means that different eye, whether you're the artist, the musician, or the author, is you see the art in everything, don't you?
Pretty much. And I try every now and then to concentrate on one thing, and it just does not work. I'll be going along writing a bunch of songs, and I'll look out the window, and it's like, oh, look at that, shiny object. And yes, definitely. Totally. But there are shapes and there are colors as well as sounds. And with writing the book, that was a whole other interesting thing because I'd been writing songs day and said one day, I think I want to write something that does rhyme every other line. That would be different. And I'd written stories when I was younger, and it was just never really big deal. But so I started writing the book. I started writing a whole different book. I had something else going on, and this was the fun part: is that exploring it, and nothing was really coming about that I was feeling decent about, and it was a slog. And I went to bed one night, and I fully dreamed the basic essence of abstraction. And I got up for the next 2 days. I'm just writing maniacally, trying to get down every bit that I could remember. And then, of course, then it just gave me a basis to work from, and then it took me like 2 years to finish it. It's interesting. The book is set in the Pacific Northwest, the Puget Sound area. Some of it's in Seattle, some of it is in the counties across the water from Seattle. And I'm an Iowan originally, but spent most of my life out in that Pacific Northwest area, back in Iowa again, who knows. But the book actually was mostly written when I was living in the Florida.
Sorry, you broke up there. Where? The book was
In the
supposed to.
Florida Keys. It was
Ah.
written in a little rental house in Key Largo, and it was
Mm.
a nice, funky little house that Hurricane Irma blew away.
Oh
It was rather crumbly, and it sort of bit the dust, as it were.
no.
But it was a wonderful setting to write. It just
Mm.
something about it, the act of not having to really put on much clothing every day was probably helpful. I didn't get distracted, like, oh, what am I going to wear today? Who cares?
Yes, exactly. I do feel that, and I've interviewed a lot of authors. I've just written my memoir. My brother is an author, and it's you can have the outline of where you would like the story to go, but when the fingers start hitting the keyboard, it takes on a life of its own. And people always say their characters, you had one idea for them, but then when you kind of read back, you go, they've become something else altogether.
You
Did
know,
this happen to you?
that what I always thought, I'd heard other writers say, "Oh, my characters took off on their own with this one." I thought, "Oh, that is such malarkey." You're saying this, you're telling them to say, and I learned a lesson.
Yeah.
They, I don't know how it happens. It's like this magic thing. The characters suddenly start saying stuff. It's like,
Mm.
uh, I wouldn't say that, but they're saying that. Let's
Mhm.
see where this goes.
Yes,
And it was a fun ride,
right.
and so I'm hoping to take another fun ride here pretty soon
Oh,
with.
good, good. I find that, again, you can have the baseline, right? And
Yeah,
but when you allow, my brother is always a person who goes to a coffee house and he's got his book and he kind of writes the outline and thing of the book. And then he gets in there and he was a literary teacher, taught master's degree and how to write and all of that. So he's very disciplined. But again, even with him, the characters take on a personality of their own. And I think if we can get our own egos out of the way, our own limitations out of the way, and
yeah.
allow things to come through us, they can really reveal things that are really quite extraordinary.
Well, and that's what I noticed. The book. What's it about? It
Mm.
was my friend Marcia, who's an artist. She says, "Oh, this book is fabulous. It's about evil being vanquished by art." And I thought, well, it kind of is. It's like, and it's also, I think, I began picking at it and looking at it. It's really a book about the rewards of taking risks, of
Mhm.
uh, of how difficult, how our fears kind of cripple us creatively.
Yes.
And so you have to really be willing to step out there and just throw caution to the wind and not be afraid. Then you've made room for some really cool stuff to happen, and you just have to hang on.
Right.
And
Yeah.
because
You'd
becomes
be
some
flapping in the wind.
toads wild ride.
Is it
But
the same approach to your art? I mean, do you go in with a
oh
piece,
yeah,
it's going to be this, or is it you again allow it to be?
I let the paint do what it
Mm.
wants. And I I have an idea. I have not an outline, but I don't do
Perspective, perhaps, of what you
well, I
want.
don't do sketches per se. I
Yes.
tend to take notes. I
Yeah.
make like written notes, and this is where I must get the crossover stuff going on between the written word and the
Mm.
visual. Is like I a sketch doesn't do much for me, but a description, or
Mm.
it's like, make this yellow area over here, and I'll write that down, and what I want to occur, like layers of paint, what color, what
Mm.
color, what color, and
So you're
and
storytelling.
yeah,
Basically,
essentially.
the thread between book, art, and music is storytelling.
Uh, uh-huh. And all of it, I figured out, uh, is all about frequencies. It's all about
Yes.
vibration,
Mm.
and uh, I think that's most readily attainable to understand with music, because it's so obvious. The
Yeah.
sound is frequency, but the paint, the colors have their own vibrations,
Hmm.
and with the written word, it's it's different. It's more, for me, it's very solid.
Mm.
Okay, when you read abstraction, you kind of wonder what I'm talking about, because that is pretty quirky stuff. You have to, you're reading the book and you've decided, sure, when you look at this painting, you can kind of just become and it's a
Yeah.
trippy thing. And what happens to one of the characters when he looks at the paintings is just amazing. And you think, yeah, that's sort of some other kind of reality.
Mm,
But and we have, there are levels of reality, I guess. There's our agreed upon,
mm,
everyday world. We know that the wall is solid. We agree that the
mm.
wall is solid. But when you're reading a book like Abstraction, the wall isn't solid anymore. And we're okay with that.
Yeah. And I think actually, if we look at things from a human mind, the
Uh-huh.
war is solid and we are grounded. But when you look at things more from a cosmic, soul, spiritual, there are no boundaries, there are no walls. There is just energy and fluidity. And when you can put the two together, you're kind of transforming those walls into a fluidity that kind of opens and reveals something altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's pretty much on the nose there.
I love things that because when I look at art, it's immediately what story is it telling me? And it's I'm one of these people that I could see faces in the peculiar floor tiles or in the lino and things like this. I see things, all the time at me. And I'm a storyteller in my head, always have been. So there's always a movie going on. All right. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the parallel life that I live. And I find that it wasn't to come out for me in the form of art. It ended up kind of coming out in this form. With my brother, as I said, he's more the writer and he's always has been kind of from the age of 6. He loved words and he loved putting words
Yeah.
together. And he is totally different as a person. We call him the Mooka because he's always going, no, you know. But in his books, he goes so dimensional on so many different
Uh-huh.
levels. And I know that's really him. But
Yeah.
he doesn't reveal himself that, on the human level. Have you found yourself being kind of maybe disconnected, or are you at one when you're in your artistry, and when you're not in your artistry, you're someone else?
Oh gosh, I don't, that's a very interesting question. I think I look at my regular self. I get up in the morning and put socks on and my feet get cold. And but I think I'm um probably a funnier person than the paintings.
Hmm.
Maybe I don't think the paintings really reveal as much about me. The book reveals more about me because uh, it's there's some stuff in there about opening ourselves up to
Hmm.
taking a chance and how it makes it a better life. But it's couched unintentionally. It just is my voice.
Hmm.
Everything has this, like, we may be breaking out laughing any moment
Yeah.
kind of deal. I started writing another story one day, and I had in our real life, I had seen a woman jump off a bridge as
Hmm.
I was driving by. And it's a big bridge out west, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, 580 feet down to the water surface. And I thought, oh my God, I just saw somebody jump off the bridge. And uh, my companion said, oh my, we should call 911. I said, it's a bit late, you
Hmm.
know, but it turns out there's a little deck where if a person were to jump over the rail 4 feet down
Ah,
the deck. So she was rescued, and that
good.
well, but I didn't learn that until much later that day. It was awful. But I started writing a story and I wanted to put that in there, and heaven help me, I could not make it not funny. Now, there's nothing funny
No,
about jumping
no.
off a bridge, but no matter what I did, I just couldn't get there. So I stopped. I was like, I
Well, no,
never.
not really. I mean, I think that sometimes we do need to look at the funny side of it because, like, hey, God had other plans.
Yeah, something else was
you
going
think you're
on.
going to escape your life by jumping into the river and calling it quits?
Yeah,
I'm putting
not
this
so
ledge
much.
there because you still got work to do. You
Yeah.
know?
It may show up, when you get enough time between seeing the incident. Oh my God, it was about 8 years ago, I think it was now. But that was, yeah, yeah, to fit in. I think part of me wanted to be a serious writer, but I can handle serious things, but it's never going to just stay that way.
I think maybe, some pieces of your art show the seriousness, show the depth, show the complexity, and maybe even show the darkness. And
Huh?
when I look at humanity and I think, God, we're loathsome. Some of us are loathsome. And
Yeah.
then I look at other people who are doing extraordinary things, and I think, why can we not be this light that we're
Yeah.
meant to be? And we can't sometimes see the light through the darkness. And the thing is, for people to actually understand, you don't need to see the light in the darkness, you need to become the light in the darkness.
Well, there you go. Yeah. And um, it seems like for there to be the light, it's such a struggle. It's
Yes.
hard, and it seems really hard for people to just accept it and become part of this. Um, you
Maybe we
know,
do need more of that quirky humor. Maybe we
maybe
need to
that's
learn
it.
to laugh at ourselves a little bit. Maybe we're
I
taking ourselves too seriously.
That could be it. I
Yeah.
think more people need to read abstraction. That'll save us. You know, uh, but I don't. One never knows. But
One never knows.
I was thinking about all art, that it never is what it started out to be,
Right.
because first of all, the creative of the art, whether it's music, sculpting, painting, writing, all of it is uh, right away. It's got the creative, the project all over it.
Hmm.
And what that is every moment of experience in the person's life, in the artist's life, shows up somehow in every piece. And
Yeah.
then you, like the paintings, I just did a couple of shows this winter that were in good, very good situations. And at one point I saw there were like 10 people standing around one painting, and they're doing this. And and I realized they're seeing 10 different paintings,
Exactly.
and none of
Isn't
them are
that
what I
intriguing?
painted.
I know. That's
Yeah.
what I love about art. I mean, if this, I'm always encouraging people to have, those book parties where you all can share your perspective of the book. But I want people
Uh-huh.
to have podcast parties as well. Listen to a podcast and each come, with a glass of wine and some fun.
Yeah.
What did you get out of the podcast? Because everybody would
Like
have heard something different. And I think if we
completely
could
different.
get together more and share those perspectives, it opens up our vision
Oh
to
yeah.
see things more broader.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the whole idea that nobody is seeing or hearing
Yeah.
the same thing.
No,
Obviously, there's some there's
commonality.
commonality
Yeah.
lines, of course,
Mm.
but the fact that every experience that each of them has ever had,
Mm.
is coloring everything that they're seeing.
Yeah.
That's different than the guy standing beside them.
Right. And it's also, what we see in the moment, because
Yeah,
where we are in this space of time is what we're going to see. And
yeah,
we can revisit something at another time and see something totally different. You go down the street and go, God, when did that building pop up? It's been there for 10 years and you haven't
yeah,
seen it,
yeah,
right? And it's kind of when the time is ready, you will see, or when you've become aware, you start seeing things. When you have a need for something, it reveals itself,
yeah.
right?
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah,
Mm. And I think a
it's good.
painting, I like art that I notice that some of your art is what I would call shadow art, is that you don't bring out the defining colors, right? It's almost like it's in the background shadow type art. So it's
Huh?
waiting to reveal itself. But then in your portraits, I love the way you've done your portraits because they're very defining on who the characters are, but they're not like a picture portrait. You've given
Right.
them a different look, which is more interesting. So you've taken kind of almost regular type stance and made it interesting with the way that you've put it together. So kind of given a depth to the person, but in its clarity, if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. And it's I think what I was this last series of portraits that I had done, the larger ones were the people wearing the oversized
Hmm.
cloaks,
Hmm.
and they were floating in the air. Uh, that was a lot of fun to
Hmm.
do because I knew I wanted their faces to be recognizable, and everybody in that series is someone I either know or am related to, and they look like themselves. That
Yeah.
part of it, even though their faces and
Hmm.
hair are just color fields, they aren't, no shadowing going on. Maybe I'm a little lazy. I don't know.
No, I think it's kind
But
of
we,
allowing people to see. You're inviting
yeah,
people to see deeper instead of
yeah,
just giving them the picture and this is it and they're seeing it at face value. You're asking them to look deeper below the veil.
yeah, yeah. Because when you get involved in the minutia of detail of light and shadow, which I love light and
Mm.
shadow, but it's just not something I paint.
Right.
I like I'm a color field person. I see, where I'm sitting right now in my house. I just glanced out the window and there's this yard of grass and trees that goes up a hill to a cemetery, and I'm just seeing green and
Mm.
white and
Mm.
grays, and oh, there's a red, and it's just, maybe I need new glasses. I don't know.
No, I mean, if you saw the picture I have right here, which feeds me every day, and it was by a Vancouver Island artist, and it's just a bunch of flowers, but it's got these beautiful different levels of oranges and yellows together, and different reds and different whites, but everything is just so vibrant. So, if I'm kind of feeling down or stuck or some technical thing has gone wrong, the picture brings me back to life.
Yeah.
And then I have a picture of that my daughter drew of a horse's head that's pink with all this blue ore all around it. And, and I think it's just a question of what feeds you and what moment you're in, right? But
Yeah.
color is enormously important to me. I'm a very sky blue personality. I'm the wind. I've got to be free. Do not try and contain me. All right. And I need to see something that isn't restricted, that has movement, that I can see is free.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when I think about that, we talk about music for a second. Music is very, by its nature of rhythm and the structure of it, in a way, it's very confining.
Yeah.
It uh, it has very delineated rules. Uh, you know, Probably the music with the most restriction is probably heavy metal. It's
Mm.
just very rigid when it's doing it. I wasn't a heavy metal player, but I was a hard rock player with the big power chords and grinding sound coming out of the big amps, and it's like that's wonderful. But
Mm.
it's like, well, it's very structured, very
Yes.
structured, and
Yes.
painting is way less so structured. I mean, it's yeah, there's hardly anything going on there, and in terms of, there doesn't have to be any structure, especially when you paint non-objective abstract
Mm.
paintings, um, like my character does in the book. Wren paints things that are very sort of Jackson Pollock
Yeah.
like, and I like to think of it that way,
Well, I'm
and
looking at your woman with the aura and Miriam in the wall,
oh
and
yeah,
and then the shepherd, and and then of course I love the jazz band, and double one on that one, A, because I love the way the colors are. The thing about jazz and blues, which is my
uh-huh,
favorite kind of music, is that I find if I'm listening to that music, it elongates me.
aha,
Everything about me wants to stretch out, but at the same time, it's so utterly defining. And when I
yeah,
look at that picture, I see it being defining, but at the same time, feeling the colors stretching out.
oh yeah, yeah. The jazz band. When I was very young. I started playing guitar when I was 7 and had my first professional paid gig when I was 14,
Wow.
sitting in as a rhythm guitarist in a jazz swing band with
Mm,
some local men who knew my parents and knew that I was a guitar player, and their guitar player had injured himself and couldn't play. And they said, could I come and sit in with the band? And it was all songs I knew because that was my first love, was
right.
just straight jazz, the
Mm-hmm.
big band stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the Brazilian stuff.
Mm,
Uh-huh.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so I didn't even bother with rock and roll till I was like 30. Yeah, it's kind of
And would you say
everything.
it's maybe because at that time there was a different voice in you, a different way of wanting to speak? Was your art reflective of that at that time as well?
No, I was just so into. That's interesting because I was into the sounds of the jazz and the way, but it was like I've always approached guitar um, more like I approach a painting. Oh, this
Mm,
is very revealing at this moment.
mm,
Um,
mm.
yeah, okay,
Love it.
brain books up. Um, it's about shapes.
Yes.
Uh, Guitar playing is all about shape for me,
Mm,
to the point which for the last decade, I've only played in open tunings and not the standard tuning. I play in it just to keep my chops up.
yeah.
But the stuff that I've been playing is all in 3 or 4 different open tunings. And that is all about uh, it gets embarrassing sometimes because somebody will say, okay, what key are you in? First of all, I'm in an open tuning. Second of all, I'm tuned a whole step lower than
Mm,
everybody else because the 12-string guitar, that makes it sound so fat. It's
mm.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And the brass all just jangles together. And as a result, I have constant tinnitus. I don't hear as well as I should, and I don't care.
Because you're shaping the tune, right? You're
Yeah, and
shaping,
it's
that's the thing about music, you're shaping the note. That's the beauty of
right.
it,
And
right?
I'll if I glance down at my hand, I see specific shapes to all the sounds. And I don't spend a lot of time looking at my hands when I play, but it sometimes it does captivate me. It's like, oh, look at that shape.
Mm,
That's what that shape sounds like. And then I start thinking about that in relation to a painting.
mm,
I just wasn't
right.
conscious of it until right now. It's like, oh my.
Well, I mean, you have this lovely song which we're going to go close out with this shape of time, and it's like we think of things as shape as being something abstract or solid, and we don't realize, when a note kind of rounds itself or goes to a sharp point or kind of feels like it is more square and then but when we look at time, why do we look at time as one straight line? Time is so multi-layered. There is so much going on in any one moment of time, and it's in itself it's its own note.
And plus in our own minds, our own consciousness, uh we a lot of us try to be completely present in this moment.
Mhm.
Good luck with that, uh because everything is connected to a memory of something, fragrances,
Yes.
an object, a word that somebody says. A song is a really powerful thing,
Yeah.
and it's like suddenly you're back at some
Mm.
time decades ago,
Yes.
and then you realize, whoa, that was it's like time travel.
Isn't it great? I mean, I,
Yeah,
I love that because it's a remembering how you feel. And I think this is when we look at art, even when we read a book, when we listen to the music, it's all about feeling. It's not about
yeah,
thought. The feeling creates the thought,
right.
right? And so whatever the music doing, it's bringing back a memory or it's making you feel something presently. And it can even set the mood for your future moments. But it's about how you feel. And you can tell, I watch all these music shows, competitions, etc. And you can tell the people that can sing very well, but the people that are the song. And I get
Yeah.
to interview an awful lot of musicians. I didn't know what to put you under, actually, the author's kiss or the for the love of music, because I don't have one that has it all. But um, But when I interview the musicians, and the beauty that I love about interviewing musicians, there is no identity crisis. When you play, you are the music. You're not playing an instrument, you are at one with the instrument. And you are at one with your art when you're in your art, or whether you're in your books or with your music, is an extension of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
I'm envious of that. That's beautiful.
and it's weird too. It's like sometimes when I'm in the middle of a concert or something I'll be giving, I realize I've gone so far into it
Yes.
that I have this moment that, maybe I'll close my eyes for a second and I'll be really into it and I'll open up and go, it's like, why are
What
you
are you
here?
doing here?
Who are these people?
I have
And
this
what are you
young
doing in
guy.
my brain?
I had this young guy I interviewed, Americana Blues, Justin Johnson, and people. The reason I first noticed him is that he was playing a guitar that was a spade. And I
Oh
thought, this
yeah.
is intriguing, right? And then people make him instruments of oil cans or car parts.
Oh
And
my
as long
God.
as it's got strings, he can make music out of it. And he goes
Sure.
around to schools helping kids make, instruments out of what they've got, and helps with the music. But he's another one that when he plays, he is the music. There
Yeah.
was another guy that 30 years in the making, or maybe longer in the making, of the ballad drummer. He wanted to be a drummer that was ballad. We've gone with the blues and the jazz. His album is fantastic. And it was like everybody thought the drums had to be boom, 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 boom. And he likes
Right.
the
Yeah.
subtlety of the drums and the way it
Oh
takes
yeah.
you. And it's like it is a gift if you were given, and we're all, my analogy for life is this: we're all in discovery, self-discovery of what our gift is. What is our instrument? We learn how to play that instrument, and yes, we can be solo. But when we come together in an orchestra, each in our strengths, and we play harmoniously together, we transcend that message out in a magnificent way. But we've all got an instrument, whatever
Yeah.
it is, that is our gift. And the quicker we step into it and learn how to play it and how to use it, the more we're actually raising that frequency and that vibration and being contributors to the solution in the world.
It's the weird moment of knowing that you're yourself, you are here, you're yourself, and then there's this like thing where you feel yourself being other,
Yeah.
expanded, and
Yes.
that moment is a little bizarre, and I think a lot of people just go, "Whoa, I'm not doing that," but oh, they should. It's
Oh,
wonderful.
they should. No, God, yes. Elongate yourself, stretch out. You said in the book, that the stepping outside of your comfort zone, exploring, going and seeing, testing your limits. So many people walk this societal should line. You should
Yeah,
have this
the
degree.
should
You should
line.
marry this person. You should do this. You should do that. You've got to do that. To be important, you have to do this, to do that. And we've bought into this crap, which
Yeah,
is crap. And what we've done is lost our own identity. And that identity is your signature. It is your just like your handprint identifies you, so does your frequency
yeah.
identify you. And the quicker you step into the note that you're meant to
Mhm.
be, the more at home you are with self, and the more you actually are abundant with everyone else.
Yeah, it's you know, I was when I got the notice that I was going to be doing this interview, I started
Which was
thinking,
24 hours, bless her heart.
well, I was, I'm ready for anything.
Great, I love it.
So I started thinking about things in the book that I wanted to be sure to talk about, and I would just have to say that it the one of the main things that keeps coming up in the book, it gets asked, I think, like 3 times in the book, what's the purpose of art? What
Mm,
good is it? And one time one of the characters says, well, the purpose of art is to make visible the invisible. And then another time something else is said. I don't want to reveal too much, but
mhm.
it's worth reading. But what really woke me up to that was several years ago, before I wrote the book, I had done some things to injure my hands, and it required a little surgery. which repaired it completely. And so I'm going into the surgery. The doctor had thankfully given me the diazepam pill I asked for. Otherwise, they would have had to drag me in there. So I'm, yeah, laying there. The arm is covered, so I can't see it.
Yeah.
Although that would have been fun to watch. But so they're about to cut into my hand, and the doctor stops. He says, "Wait a minute. What are we listening to? What are we going to listen to?" And they had a discussion for a couple of minutes about what music they wanted played over the
Hmm.
sound system while they operated on my hand. And they chose something that they all agreed on that they liked. And I was happy it wasn't one of my recordings, because that would have made me feel kind of weird. It's like, will I ever be able to do that again after this? Of course, I
I would
knew
have
I
thought it would
wouldn't.
be the driving force for the doctor to make sure you can do it again.
But it was really interesting. At that moment, I realized, oh my God, because I've been going through a phase then where I thought, oh, music, I'm a guitar player, I write songs, I play them, and it's easy. What is up with this? This is, I should be producing something or whatever. I don't know. But at that moment, I realized that I was part of something that was very valuable to people.
Yes.
Everybody has, oh, we got to listen to this song or else we're going to mess this up or something. This is a
Well,
good song. I
music for
need to
me
hear
has been a lifesaver. I suffer from sadness, and as somebody pointed out, it's kind of environmental sadness. I'm an empath. I feel what's going on in the world, and sometimes it's overwhelming. And I get this
Yep.
heavy sadness that, if I'm not careful, can lead to a deep depression. And so
Yep.
music has always been one that, just on with the headphones, just listening to the music. And it's not always words, sometimes it's just the music.
Right.
But scientifically, I've found out that by listening to music, especially when you allow your ear to go to the music that you need at the time, don't think it, let your hand click on what your
Yeah.
psyche needs. It resets your body. Recalibrates you,
Yeah.
balances you, because the frequency of the sound rebalances the frequency that's going on in the body. And it's so utterly healing, and it makes such perfect sense that
Yeah.
it should do that. And that's the reason why we all love music, and music's been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah. Yep. Since the first stick got
Yes,
whacked and made a vibration, wow,
yeah,
that's creepy.
exactly. So are you telling me the drummer was the first instrument?
And that just makes up for all the jokes we used to make about our drummers. So,
Hey, I was here first.
and our
Uh,
drummers.
Um, I mean, guitar is your instrument. Have you ever
Yeah.
kind of thought, oh, what if I could play this or could play that? Or is it, the
Oh,
guitar is it?
I know how a piano works and I can make sounds on it. My voice teacher once told me, do yourself a favor and don't ever do that in public. So, at home, I had a piano for a while. It opened up some areas that I hadn't thought about, but and I can play. I can play saxophone. I learned one song. I can
Saxophone.
play satin dolls. I can do satin dolls, and that's it. And there was I tried violin. It was just a bust. Oh my God, it was awful. My friend that I used to play music with in the 1970s, we had a duo. He is a superb violinist.
Mhm.
He can play Mozart, and then he can play any spontaneously occurs to him. He's
Mhm.
one of those guys.
Right.
And I sent him one time a piece of sheet music that I'd written and a recording of it, of me playing it on the violin. And he couldn't stop laughing. He said, "Oh, this is horrible." But he did get the essence of the piece of music, and
Right.
when he plays, it's
Now
magical.
let me show you how it's done, right?
Yes, this is the way we do it. Not like that.
But I mean, that again,
But
you
so
might be
I
multiple talented, but there's always that one instrument that you're at one with, and that's the guitar for you, right?
yeah, yeah. And I played lap steel, pedal steel. I've played, you know, head banging rock and roll, and played jazz, smooth
Mm.
jazz. I played, but most the instrument that I really locked into when I was 15, so I've been playing a while, was the 12 string.
Mm.
And it just, I realized it's like a whole orchestra in here
Right.
if you do it right. And
But that must be very complex to play, though. I mean, you have 12 strings, which, yes, it gives you more, broader, what you can do, but it must be very difficult to do.
but it's not because the first higher pitch strings, there are two of them very close together and they are tuned the same. Then the next two are, it's tuned like a regular guitar, or in my case, not like a regular guitar. But the next set of two is tuned the same. The next set of the next four strings, they are octaves. So you've got the wound brass string and then a thinner, either a nickel or in some the lowest ones it's brass wound again. But so they're not unison, they're octave. And it makes within that, I've heard players go berserk and do all sorts of crazy tuning in there, but I don't find that to be very productive. I find it to be just annoying. And just some normal open tunings work for me just fine.
There's being on YouTube and on Facebook, etc., some kids playing guitar, and I don't know the name of them. There's one of them with curly hair, and he gets a hold of this electric guitar and just like mind blowing, like he was born to play it and probably was playing it in the womb. And you just watch him play, and he's playing with seasoned people, and they're blown away. Are there any guitarists out there? Is it a Santana type person, or any others out there that you kind of look at and go, yeah, that is my kind of playing?
Oh, I've always thought Mark Knopfler from the band Dire Straits
Hmm.
was connected to something.
You're
I don't
right.
know why, but it's so good. And I think Prince was
Mm,
probably uh, the greatest guitar player that you could imagine. He was so versatile and inventive and really good on electric. In terms of acoustic guitars, uh, six string players, Pierre Ben Suzanne is really good.
mhm.
And there's a list of people, and I 12 string players, Leo Kottke, of course, he's dynamite, six
Hmm.
and 12, but really good 12 player. Understand.
Again, rather like yourself, it's like you can't help but see the art in the instrument. Like again, as I said, whether
Yeah.
you're writing art or playing or singing, it is that when you actually do play, do you see a visual?
Interesting. Um, yeah, sometimes
Like your
I
mind is
it's like
painting while you're playing?
I see a little movie
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
and it's not always the same with, if I'm playing a song, five times in a week at different venues, I don't always see the same thing when I'm playing
Mm,
it, which certainly saves me from, becoming bored with
right.
something.
Has
Bored
any
is
of your
the
playings
enemy.
kind of, transcribed to the art? Like in playing this, you've seen a visual for a picture, and then now you've got to go and paint it, or the other way
Uh,
around.
you know, um, I always have music playing when I'm painting.
Hmm.
And sometimes it is my own.
You're right.
It's
Yeah.
a little embarrassing, but uh, only the instrumental stuff. I can't paint with a lyric
Right.
happening. It's
Mm.
disruptive.
Yes.
And that's interesting because the lyric is painting a picture.
Mm.
Uh,
Yes.
and so for me
It
to be painting
conflicts
with
with the
that,
music. Yeah.
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 Whereas music is itself, just the music itself is more conducive to opening a creative channel that allows me to paint what I'm seeing. Whereas
Right.
lyric, it's what you're gonna see, baby. It's
Yes.
a
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't want the dictation of the story. You want the story
right.
to be revealed. the
just
music
to
is, yeah.
develop.
We'll say that,
Yeah,
one of the thing about kind of rebirthing ourselves as we grow older and kind of rediscover ourselves is that really we can take the brush and the canvas as blank. And what we paint on there is of our choosing, is of our life experience. And whereas we didn't have some choices in certain aspects of our lives, or we went down different paths of that expectation, and now we're in our own choice of, following our own path, allowing our own essence to come through. We all become artists of our own lives, don't we? And I think, kind of from what you were saying about the book of kind of get out of your own way, allow to
yeah,
see what you do see and follow what you see, be exploratory, be wondrous,
yeah.
allow that path to be revealed.
I think there's a lot of release of fear about things, about
Mm,
fear of failure, or fear of being
judgment.
ridiculed,
Yes.
yeah, judged, and you know, uh, and fear of having your ego get its butt kicked. There's always some of that. But when you realize, so what?
Yeah.
It's like, let's just do it. You
Yes.
do what you're thinking. If maybe you'll totally at things, and that's fine, because why not?
Well, we don't
There's
know
a
what. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, if you have an idea of what, if we're talking about something concrete, like if you've always wanted to paint but never
Yeah.
painted, uh, take a class on some basic
Mm.
uh, structural things, and mechanical things and chemical things, when it comes to mixing paint or some. Uh, there are some basic things to know, about materials and that
Mm.
sort of thing. So, and music, there are some basic things, whatever instrument you're playing, and writing. Well,
Mm.
writing is interesting because we talk all the time. How
Yes.
is that different?
Yes.
Suddenly people that are talking all the time, they go, right? Ah. They get terrified.
Yes.
I don't want a pen. Keep it away from me. But of course it's different, because obviously it's different than just talking, but it's revealing.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the scariest moment, when I realized I was writing abstraction. I
Mm.
was so freaked out. The first, 20 pages. I wrote 20 pages. I go, I think this is good, but I don't know. It's like, this is in my head. People are going to
Right.
know this is in my head. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh no, God, they,
But you
whoa,
got in your head, which can
yeah,
get in your way, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was a little problem. But I took it over to a friend of mine's house, and I know she's a really good writer. And I said, read this. What do you think? Should I just stuff it in a box and forget about it? And she said, no, this is great. You gotta finish this. So, thanks a lot.
Yeah. It's the thing, I've just written my memoir and I'm in the editing stage, and I just really have not had time between work and looking after grandsons and things like that. It's
Uh-huh.
like, the editing is the most painful, isn't it, of writing,
You
Um,
know, how many times I have read this book? I've probably read it 50 times.
mm,
And every time I read it, I thought, well, that's pretty decent.
yes.
And that makes me very happy. It's like, this isn't bad. This is
Yeah.
all right. Or I'll catch something. Oh God, I wish I had said this instead.
Yes.
But of course, we're a few years on now from when it
Right.
was originally started. And if I just looked at it and said, oh yeah, that's fine, that would be more disturbing.
Well, I think it's also
I think.
kind of what reveals from it to yourself. It's like, in writing, I've blogged now for 20 something years, and I'm just one of these people. Is I do my own show every week, and sometimes I don't know what it is, and maybe one word will come into mind, press record, and out it comes. And I can write
Yeah.
that way as well. And then I've gone back and read things I wrote 20 years ago. Now, this is interesting. Who wrote it? Me. So when I wrote my memoir, I did it in 3 weeks. I just kind of sat down and wrote. I let it go. And then reading it back, there was a couple of common threads in there that I didn't realize I carried with me or
Wow.
revealed of me. But it was also kind of like, well, especially my brother being a professional author, he started editing it for me, and I thought he's going to criticize me to hell and back because he's a professional. And he
Sure.
didn't, he just kind of adjusted a few things grammatically because
Uh-huh.
I'm dyslexic and sometimes I do things the wrong way
Right.
round. Unfortunately, he had a heart attack, so he couldn't kind of follow through on it. So I've been kind of doing it from there. But every time I read it, there's something else it reveals to me. And it's like
Yeah.
I'm looking at my life. I put it down in that 3 weeks. And now every time I edit it, I'm looking at my life from a different lens. I'm seeing
Yeah.
it from a different way. And I'm sure when you're writing the book, even though it's a story, that there's so much it reveals about yourself, your thought
Uh-huh.
process, or how you recognize something of yourself in there and go, oh, maybe that's the reason why that's in the book. I think like that. So it can
Yeah.
be really revealing, can't it?
It is extremely revealing. It's like there are some things that I'm going, oh my God, you're psycho. You need to make an appointment. You know, and, and then I realized that's the best part of me.
Yes. And that's, I'm always saying in order to get, to survive in this world, you've got to be crazy.
Yeah.
And you've also got to be willing to take those risks that you're talking about, to see things differently.
Yeah.
I battled my entire life and wasted way too much of my life trying to be normal. And I realized I
Um,
wasn't born normal. I never came to this planet to be normal. That's not normal, just doesn't stick to me in any way whatsoever. And when I decided just to be Sarah in all her flaws, which beautiful word that I learned was flawsome,
yeah,
right?
I like
Being
that.
awesome in your flaws, right? Being
Awesome.
flawsome. And it's like when I accepted who I am for what I am in all my quirks and flawsomeness, I became so much more at peace, but also so much more adventurous because I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was just doing
Right.
it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, I think what I was lucky. I was born into a family that was supportive
Mm.
constantly, and my mother gave up on me right away because I was obstinate. And even as an infant, she says, oh, mom's phrase was, well, you pay your money and you take your chances, you get what you get. And because my brother is an incredible man, very nurturing, and absolutely 100% the opposite kind of person I am. We get along famously. It's wonderful. But mom had him first. 7 years go by. She says, oh, this is going to be so wonderful. Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
something other. But her phrase to me, I was constantly going around saying, I'm bored. What can I do? And she
Yeah.
goes, use your imagination,
Yeah.
go outside,
Yeah.
use your imagination. And I heard that enough times that I started thinking, oh, that's the way it's supposed to go. I'm
Yes.
supposed to imagine a life.
Mm.
And I've imagined a pretty dandy one, I think.
Nah. And the thing is, isn't just to imagine it, but to follow it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To be the explorer in your own life, right?
Yep.
To follow it, even if it leads you down into the dungeons sometimes, and you go, "Whoops, wrong turn."
Yeah.
But when you get out of it, you realize how much you've learned about yourself, of your abilities that you never thought
Yep.
you had in
Yep.
getting out of that dungeon. And you're like, I'm so much more courageous and stronger than I thought I was. And I have so many more skills and abilities than I allowed myself to think. And that's the reason for going in the dungeon, isn't it? Is
I
to
think
is to
so.
discover how flawsome you are.
Yeah. And then, conversely, I've had some experiences where I go, I think I'm a little weak in some areas.
Mm,
And by God, that's just the way it is. I can continue. I don't have to
mm.
be strong at everything. It works out just fine.
Yeah.
And
That's a
without,
big one, isn't it? That's a big one
yeah,
because
because we're always going, oh, I learned how strong I am. And it's like that happens a lot. But sometimes you go, that is so screwed up, and I don't know how to do this any other way.
right, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we get to a certain age. I'm 68, and I think we get to a certain age where it's like, I haven't got the energy anymore to
Yeah.
to live up to somebody's expectation of what they want me to be. You either see me or you don't. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be offended if you don't. I'm not going to be offended if I'm not your cup of tea. I'm a strong cup of black coffee with scotch, right? You know, and you can take me or leave me, but I'm not going to stop being me. Now,
Yeah.
in case of point when I'm around my children, They don't see Sarah. They see mother and how they
Yeah,
need mother. So I'm
yeah.
different to each one of my children, right?
Well,
According to what
you
they
know,
need from me.
that's a necessary, very necessary thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
because raising
And
a child is something other than this other stuff we talk about.
yes.
There's certain requirements, and with people that have children, I hope they know that going in.
Yeah. I didn't. I had three.
You
And
learn.
I remember my daughter had her first one. She said, Mom, how did you do it with three? And I said, I don't know. We just did it. You paid
Yeah,
attention to the moment and you just went with the gut instincts. Now
yeah.
she's just had a second baby. Unfortunately, they broke the little one's femur when they brought him out. So this little thing is in a horrible vice and they can't kind of hold him
Yes.
properly and he can't even be bathed. And, he's
Yeah.
got to see spray. We don't know how long it's going to be on for. And so, it ended up being, not the kind of birth they wanted. And her first one was pretty awful as well. But she has two beautiful children. And I
Yeah.
spend a great deal of time with my little 2-year-old grandson. And I look at him and I think, this is such a pleasure. I don't have to take care of his well-being for the next 20 years. I can simply devour and enjoy him every time I see him. And it's such a
Oh.
different feeling as a grandparent. I love it.
Well, that's pretty amazing. Pretty
And
amazing.
that there is, I think there is no wrong or right way in the sense of you should do it this way, you should do it that way. It is
Right.
follow your heart, follow your gut, follow your instincts, listen. Listen, there will be people who say, this is what, is great about when you are starting out in something where you talked about if you're an artist, learn the basics. If you're a writer, learn the basics. If you're a performer of any line, there's many people I've always wanted to perform, always sung in the shower, and now I'm getting out there and doing it. Learn your basics, right? Because you need to
Yeah.
know that foundation in order to build on something. But it's the same with parenthood. And it's one of those things you get thrown into, right? And here is the baby, and what do I do with it? And this is
Yeah.
where be around other parents and
Yeah.
share your experiences. And in those shared experiences, you learn how to apply things differently, and you also feel supportive. And I think if you are going adventuring down a different road in life, like suddenly you want to be the artist or be the writer or be this or that, don't let the naysayers say, well, who do you think you are? Or you're not a writer, you can't do that. It's be around the people that are and learn from them. Listen, learn, and apply.
Yeah. We hope we're learning.
But isn't that life? We're going to continue
You
learning
know,
to the day we die. I
every
hope.
every moment until the last breath.
Yes.
And when you get that last breath, oh, look what I'm learning now.
Yeah, exactly. I can't breathe anymore.
Yes, that's what I've learned.
But that's what life is about, isn't it? It's don't give up and don't give in. Now there's plenty of times it's just pause, stop,
Sure.
take a
I, I
breath,
I spend
assess where you are.
yeah, I spend huge amounts of my day just sitting and looking into space,
Yes.
because I think maybe that's what people do when they meditate. I don't
Yes.
know. For
It's a
me, it's
gift of
like
silence, a gift of
it's just
presence.
it's just as I look at
Mm.
things and then I'm not seeing anything, and then I go to work on it. But there's plenty of space, a
Yes.
lot of space, and you
And
know,
that's the resetting, I think. That is kind of the
yeah.
recentering. That is being present. As I talked about being the light in your own darkness, is that when you go into that space, whether it is meditative, everybody does it in a different way. When you go into that space of nothingness, silence, and darkness, that's
Uh-huh.
when things are revealed.
I was going to say receiving some information that
Yes.
no other way to get it. If
No?
you're running around like a chicken without a head, you're not
Yeah.
hearing the things that you're supposed to be hearing.
Literally.
Literally.
So what is next for you? I know
Next for me.
you've got this
Um,
wonderful book going out, which is there an age group on it? Is there a certain age that shouldn't read it or
there's a lot of language. These people say whatever comes into their mind, and some
right?
of it's pretty vulgar. And but I think it's
But
dreadfully safe. It's really
it's for
safe.
the open-minded.
Yeah, it's yeah,
Right.
definitely. And
Open-minded and people who want to read something outside of the box,
yeah, and
outside of the norm.
it's not genre. It's
Yeah.
if you're going to put it in a genre, it would be magical realism. I've heard it called that because it's
Mm.
based everything. It's not other worlds. It's our
Yeah.
world. And but I'd say the things that happen around that painting are pretty magical. And
It's
um,
dimensional within our world, not
yeah,
dimensional outside of our world.
right, right.
Hmm.
And but it's a fun book to read. It doesn't take long. It goes very fast. So if it turns out you didn't like it, you haven't wasted your life on it. But so far people seem to like it. And so what's coming, a lot of book signings
Hmm.
and in-person stuff and some readings and hopefully starting another book. I'm always thinking about it, but I haven't actually set the computer or I like to play around with the
Is there
pen.
anything that's kind of nagging at you saying, I need to be written?
Oh, yes, yes. And then it flutters away
And then
as
comes
it
back as
probably
a hammer.
should.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, this is really great. What a great idea. And then days later, it's like, not so much.
What I have a problem with is night, in the silence, in the dark. That's when my storytelling comes out. And I've always got a movie going on in my head, always got a story going on, and I'll listen to the story, and sometimes it can keep me up for hours because it's intriguing. And I go, the next day I want to get it down, and I don't remember it.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
you
been it's been
can't wait.
told, it's been said, it's out
Yeah.
there. It is no longer. Do you find that?
Well, I get ideas, I have to write them down. Pretty much stopped myself from thinking about what I want to do as far as the next book or a song or something. When I go to bed,
Yes.
I do not think about it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
there is no sleep. It's
Yeah.
done. The,
Right.
the next 8, 10 hours, I will be thinking about it and it won't have a purpose. It'll
Right.
just be wasted space. So I let myself sleep and regenerate and then spend the day thinking about the story
Yeah,
and
I try and tell myself boring stories, and I'm one of these people that are utterly detailed, right down to the touch, the taste, the smell. That's how I dream as well.
good. Yeah,
I
yeah.
can, I dream in that where I can smell, I can touch, I can taste. I had COVID recently, so I can't smell
Oh,
anything anymore. But so, but that try and make sure that my story isn't interesting, otherwise it's going to keep me awake. But I'm also but continue it on for days, and it
yeah,
just. I think for me, your mum was to say go and explore life, and unfortunately, I was a sickly child, which was embedded a great deal for weeks and weeks on end in a
yeah.
blank white room, and that's the reason why I
Uh-huh.
can't stand the color of just white. I like
I
contrast, um, and so the dimensional traveling came. I had to live elsewhere or go
Yeah,
mad, and so that is something that has always stayed with me. But I find if I keep that part of my mind busy, then the other side part of the mind could be creative and doing.
yep.
So it's
That's
the
good.
two thoughts going on all the time.
That's
So
great. It's
makes you a
nice to
bit
know.
psycho, but
Well, but you found it.
yeah,
It's real. You can hold it in your hand and go, "Hey, this is me. Here we go."
yes,
You know,
yes. I
sorry
mean,
for people that are walking around the planet
n-
not figuring it out.
yeah, I know, and being perturbed by it, and it's like, no, don't be perturbed about it because then you've bought into game the shoulds and things. If you are a
Yeah.
multi-level thinker, where you're hearing the song, you see the art and the stories in the book is all coming to you all at once. You're not crazy. You're just very
Yeah.
creative, and it's like, which creation are you going to take first, and
Uh-huh.
apply, right? It becomes about that
Yeah.
choice. But I think so
Yeah.
many people don't allow their creativity to come to the forefront because, again, this awful linear or in the box or neat and tidy has to be thinking that I think destroys the creativity.
Yeah. And but for me, I just have this kind of curiosity about
Yeah.
everything. Like, how does that work? Can we take that apart and look inside it?
Yes.
Yeah. And what is that guy doing over there? Let's go see. And funny stories about stuff like that. But anyway, uh, curiosity and just not being afraid to pursue it.
Yes.
Uh, I think some people are very satisfied in their life, and for better or worse, I'm never completely
I
satisfied.
hear you. I hear you. It's always like, what else is out there? I started doing podcasting 11 years ago. I was invited to be on someone's network, and she said, I'd like you to join my podcast. And I go, what's that? I hadn't even heard of what a podcast was. And
Yeah,
I joined
sure.
her for 13 months live, and great training ground, everything that could go wrong did. And then I
Yeah,
started my own network 10 years ago. And I've got close to 3,000 shows under my belt now. And I found my canvas. I found my canvas,
yeah,
and I get to interview people like you who have had this wonderful lifetime of experience that you're sharing with others to help them on their own journey of life. And I think if I had said, well, I don't know what to do with a podcast, I don't know if I can do it. If I'm not educated due to being
yeah,
sick, I basically was a grade 7, and
yeah,
I'm not an academic at all. And I've talked myself into every job I've gone into. And I found
yeah,
out, can I do it or not? I'll find out on the job,
yeah.
right?
If I
And
can't
some
do it, get a
then
try.
bye-bye. You're right, exactly.
Yeah,
If I
yeah,
can
we're
do
ain't
it,
doing
yeah.
that.
So my entire skills are life experience. And the thing is,
Yeah,
I was shit scared to do
yeah,
all of
sure.
this. But
Yeah,
the other part of me was like, how do you know if you can't do it, Sarah, until you try?
yeah,
And
yeah,
that give it a try. I do have that other feeling when I feel the hand pushing me back. No, that's not for me. No, oh, go on, Sarah, give it a try. No, that's not for me. The hand is pushing me back. That's not for me. But the other thing where you can feel the gut saying, go on, do it, do it, do it. And
yeah.
you find your mouth saying yes before because everything's
Uh,
aligned, right? And then you
yeah,
do it. And it's like, wow, I didn't know I could do this. And I
yeah.
think if we could just allow ourselves to be
Well,
that adventurous.
yes is a fabulous word.
Yeah.
And it's just short and concise, ends on a nice, so you're
Yes.
ready to
Yes.
go. Yeah. And, and maybe sometimes we fall on our faces. Oh,
Yeah.
well, we're
We
resilient.
I believe that failure is when you don't get back up and you choose not to continue. You've
Yeah.
given up. That's failure. For me,
No, that's
everything
fair.
else is just life lessons or
Yeah.
redirection.
Yeah.
Okay, you've learned what you needed to learn from that
Now we're going over
mistake. Now we're going
here.
to redirect and go somewhere else and try it again, right? And then
Yeah,
that the thing is, be willing to learn, be willing to listen, learn, and apply what you learn. Right?
exactly.
The
Yeah.
what ifs in world. I had somebody on this week, Sandy Rutherford, which is on this week as well, and we talked about the what if. And you've got but what if it doesn't work, or what if somebody judges me, or what if that, or the other? What if this was just something quite crazy that I've never seen or done before? Is what energy are you feeding?
Yep.
That's what's going to grow, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you just, we get scared about stuff. So what? You
Yes.
know?
But isn't that also a kind of a generating energy, that little fear, that
Yeah.
adrenaline? Can I do it?
A
Can't I do it?
little
Yeah.
tingle there. It
Yeah.
says, oh God, I don't know. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like writing your book, that first 20 pages, right?
Yeah.
You needed that verification
Yeah.
from someone. Yes, you're on the right track. Keep going. Because if we haven't
Yeah.
done it before, we go and second guess. Now, if you wrote a piece of music, you won't go to anyone for that
Yeah. The
validation.
other thing I do with music is sometimes I've written a couple of songs that are so, in my mind, so decent, so good that I think, oh my God, I must be plagiarizing this whole thing. And that there's a real risk there because
Yes.
we're inundated with music all the time.
And we look at Ed Sheeran thing, court case, and
Yeah.
everything's just gone on,
So,
right?
I went to, I'll never forget it. I wrote a song. This was like 1987 or something like that. And I was doing a double bill gig with a friend of mine. And we get to the club and I said, go see if there's anybody in the men's room. And he went in and goes, it's all clear. I said, good, because I needed to put my foot on something. So I put my foot up on a urinal and I played this song for him with a guitar resting on my leg. And I said, have you heard this before? I just finished it. And he said, I've never heard this before. That's a good one. So,
Right.
okay. I was getting my verification.
Right. And you know, and like Ed Sheeran had said in his court case yesterday that, you know, that the tone and the composition and the wording was all different to what he was accused of plagiarizing. And you know, if you look at music and you look at writing and you look at art, we all take from other people's influence. Inspiration begets invitation,
Sure.
right?
Where it
It's
gets
just
gets down to the nitty gritty when with music, it's like, is a certain progression of notes
mm,
consistent enough to, like, I'll never forget George Harrison when he
mm,
wrote "My Sweet Lord,"
yes.
that's he's so fine, which
Hmm.
had already been written and was a fabulous song. And it was obvious. But what was amazing to me is that he was not in a vacuum. He was surrounded by people who heard that, and
Yeah.
somebody knew that. They had to
Right.
have known that that was like, no, it's too much. And whether it was probably not intentional. That's the
Hmm.
fun part.
Yeah.
But he lost that suit because it was so exactly the same. And
Right.
it's like,
And he probably would have
so,
heard it somewhere on the line, back of his mind, and it came to
sure.
the
Oh,
forefront and he
absolutely.
thought it was his, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Music is really risky that way.
exactly.
And, but painting, it's less likely to
Yeah.
happen.
Mm,
Writing, it's like every sentence, there's a possibility that, you come up with a sentence that sounds really good. And then you start thinking, somebody else has written this sentence. Highly likely.
yes.
But
What content and what context, you
yeah,
know,
then
is
you
what
get
changes.
into, well, in the flow of the entire
Yeah.
body of the piece of work, it's not significant
Yeah,
unless it's
I will see sayings that I have said that I'm commonly known for saying, and suddenly see somebody promoting using that saying. And it's like, well, other than going back to all my podcasts over the years and hearing me say it, you know, I don't know if they've taken it from me or if it's something that came up on their own. And I look at it this way. It's you know, these are my words, but if other people are taking them and they're having a resonance as an invitation to other people, so be it. So be it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Again,
yeah.
somebody may say my words, somebody may sing your song, but the interpretation is always going to be different.
Oh yeah, can never be the same.
Nope, nope, because it's sung from a different vibration, right? So
Go.
yeah, this is what we're seeing actually right now, an awful lot of the youth coming out singing some of the old greats.
Mhm.
You know, a sweet Valentine, a young girl was singing the other day beautifully. And it's so wonderful to see some of these old classics that were so
Oh,
meaningful being kind of reinterpreted by the
uh-huh.
young. And it's like, that isn't plagiarism, that is honoring the
Yeah.
artist.
And when you acknowledge that this is not something I
Right.
wrote, but arrangements and interpretations are completely valid.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
We're going to finish off with your song, "The Shape of Time," which I absolutely loved. But how did "The Shape of Time" come about?
Uh, well, when I write a song, I start with the guitar. The
Mm,
music always comes out first, and then I just sit there with no one around me, just saying words, nonsensical sounds, and all kinds of things. Then something begins to form. And with the shape of time, it just popped into my mind about what is the shape, what is the shape of time? And then I started working how that might look. What does time look like?
yeah.
And if you're in certain circumstances, what does it look like? Well, as the chorus goes, if you're standing in a prison cell, what
Mm,
is the shape of time? If you're standing thirsty at the well, what's the shape of time? Look into your lover's eyes, what is the shape of time? Stand beneath the endless skies, what is the shape? Every one of those things is a whole different context
right.
time.
Yeah.
and and I just started to see it as a shape, like how round is a minute, how wide is a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
I love
I
it. I
guess.
love the song. And I mean, you've got some of your music on your site, but
Yeah.
do you have any other music out elsewhere that people can find?
Oh, You can find my recordings available on Amazon, and
Is it under your name?
yes.
Okay, because I want to make sure that we represent that. And and of course the book is only come from your site at the present moment. It's not
Oh, the
and
book is available everywhere.
okay, so it's
It's
on Amazon too?
yeah,
Okay.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Powell's Books. You can order it anywhere you like. It's published by Casva Press,
Hmm.
which is based in Israel.
Ah.
And oh my gosh, there's a story in itself. If we had another hour, I could tell you how that all came about. And it
No.
involves a rock band.
Yeah. Oh, right. Well, isn't it lovely how some connections happen?
Everything fits
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. And again, not that straight line. If you
Yep.
step off the straight line and you're willing to twist and shout, you'll find all sorts of wonderful things that lead you where you're meant to go, which is really exciting. Um, so your site is Sam Wiesel, which is WEIS, and it's number 1.net. Um,
That's
and your Facebook or any other social medias?
I'm on Facebook. You can just go to Facebook and type my name in, and there I am. Instagram, I show up there too. Instagram is Sam Wise Art.
Okay, I'm going to make sure I have all those links here on your show page. And for your music in Amazon, if I put in Amazon your name, your music list will come up.
It should you can probably best to put in Sam Wise music. Otherwise, if you put in Sam Wise Abstraction, the book comes up right away.
Right.
And if you
Okay.
put, yeah,
And of course, when you want to see the whole show page, everything there, all about the book, how to find the book, how to find her music, how to find her art, and everything else. All you have to do is come to selfdiscoverywisdom.com and put in Sam Weisel, SAMWEIS, and then you'll see her whole page, show page here. And that's for the people that are listening. The links are always there, folks. Just read what's underneath the audio, and the links are always there leading you back to a page. Um, this has been a delight. Thank you so much.
had a great
love,
time. Wonderful talking with you.
doing. Oh, it just is. I love the mind of an artist, because it really does work on a different plane. You don't live in the lack of possibility. It's always that what if? What if
Yeah,
I just
the
do
what
this?
if.
Yeah, the exciting what if, or like and yeah, I mean, you can sometimes I'm sure you could paint something or write something and you go, God, no, what mood was I in when I did that?
You just
Right?
paint over it.
You're right, exactly. But
Don't
then
record
again,
it.
out of that, I'm sure something else comes about
Oh,
because,
definitely. Definitely.
everything is reflective of where you are at the time, isn't it? And what
You
vibration you're in.
just don't get stuck. Don't get
Mm,
stuck on something. Like painting. Maybe I'll paint something and go, everything I paint is good. No,
mm,
it isn't. There's a lot of it that's a lot of paintings have other paintings under them.
mhm. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
and it's also got to be something that you look at and would you hang it on your own wall, which I have seen of some of your art behind you, which is lovely.
Yes.
And but also, is it truly representing where you were at the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you feel the frequency from it? Because after all, we are all frequency. We are all that mathematical frequency vibrational equation. And the higher the frequency we are, the more open we are, more creative we are, and the more we see, the more we understand, the more it opens up our intrigue and our wonderment. And the more that it reveals to us of how we are so much more than just these humans. We are human, beautiful beings, and we should be being.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Sam. This has been an absolute delight. So,
Thank
folks,
you.
please go and get her art from her site, her music. Please listen to it. We're going to close out with this wonderful song, Shape of Time, which is so I loved it when I listened to it. I really kind of felt it in every way. And, you know, reach out to her on her social media, interact with how you felt about the show, about her art, ask questions. You know, life is about interaction. Please be interactive, because that's how we learn. That's how we get inspired. That's all what we're all about, is our community, how we can come together in our own beautiful artistry, share, enlighten, and grow. So until next time, folks, bye for now.
Time is a circle, time is a line, time is a space that emotions define. Space is a riddle, mystery they say. How wide is a minute? How round is a day? Box within a box, a wheel within a wheel, a thunderstorm of laughter, if that's how you feel. How long does it take to pull the rage apart? The shape of a river, or the shape of a heart? If you're waiting in a prison cell, what is the shape of time? Standing thirsty at the well, what is the shape of time? If you look into your lover's eyes, what is the shape of time? Stand beneath the endless skies, what is the shape of, what is the shape of time? Time is an egg, time's a room of glass. You'd like to get in, but you just can't pass. A hand in a pocket, breath on a line, the shape of a kiss, or the wind passing by.
We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tab at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.